So what's up, y'all? So we're gonna do some reading of the not so absolute amendments that Biden stated or made comments about. Sorry. First thing that I just really want to get off my mind is as the highest paid federal bureaucrat at $417,000, who elected Fauci? Now, I understand politicians are sometimes, they wear many hats. Meaning, like you got like Dan Crenshaw, who used to be in the military, or Tulsi Gabbard, or, some of them have bartending experience, like Miss Cortez. I have no issues with politicians using the experience of their other professions in regards to how they go about running their politics and doing their job. That kind of makes sense. But if we're going to have our freedoms restricted by a federal bureaucrat, it seems very concerning to me that our freedoms are largely restricted by a bureaucrat who was not voted in. Nobody voted Anthony Fauci in. We are supposed to have a representative democracy, not a dictatorship democracy. If our freedoms are going to be infringed upon, at the very least they should be infringed upon by an elected official, not a dictated bureaucrat. He was just given this position. And for some of you who think I'm just hating on Biden, well, remember, Fauci was around for Trump too. And, many people assume I fucking stand with that guy. Like I said, if half the shit that he said he really believed was fucking happening, he had the authority to actually make a difference. That's just my opinion. But again, at what point can politicians or federal bureaucrats commit treason? Because you have politicians who are taking our tax dollars and proposing to give them to Central America basically as a bribe to try to stop people from coming to America, when all that's going to do is further bolster the issues that are going on down there through child trafficking and drug trafficking. Just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Let alone the fact that when asked directly by a congressman, the highest paid bureaucrat could not give a direct answer on when we will get our freedoms back. Let alone the fact that they are trying to still push these experimental vaccines. It's been proven, even though people said I was a fucking nutso with certain ones like the J&J. Oh, nothing's happening. Nothing's ever happening to anybody. And then CNN comes out and does a full fucking, article in regards to the blood clotting that it's been causing, because they couldn't hide from the truth anymore. You have the Moderna, or not the Moderna, I'm sorry. Moderna has been questioned for other reasons. AstraZeneca is now being questioned, and because our media doesn't do any investigative journalism, it's hard to tell what's really going on. And then when Pfizer just now came out and said that after you get your second shot, within 6 months or after 6 months, you have to get a third shot in order for it to still work, I guess. And then after that, every year you have to get another booster shot. Like on top of that, this isn't conspiracy theory. I think it was CBS did whoever does 60 Minutes did a special on Bill Gates's prototype device that goes inside your body and is supposed to filter the COVID out of your blood. Like that's just fucking amazing, because if anybody would recall, I've mentioned before, I think it was back in 2012. I don't want to get fucking flagged for, false or wrong information. It's my opinion, but it is a fact. At some point in the 2000s, Bill Gates, or 2010s, I believe, Bill Gates got a patent on an unknown coronavirus. Got a patent on an unknown coronavirus. We had through proxy of our own government, funding that went into the Wuhan lab, where all best accounts, not knowing exactly how it got out, but by all best accounts, it has traced back to that Wuhan lab. Like, I just really wish people could see that checks have been written, and these fucking corporate and bureaucratic fat cats want their fucking money. They want their fucking money back. They want their investments. They want their fucking dividends. You know, if the fact that automation doesn't scare you yet, you should probably look in more into the fact that these corporations don't care. If they're willing to use celebrities to push out the vaccine, if they're willing to give you free beer to take the vaccine, if you have big corporations that are willing to pay you to get the vaccine, the irony in that for me is that they are doing it because they are legally trying to CYA. They're trying to cover their asses legally without thinking about the fact of, well, if this vaccine doesn't work, we coerce. Bribery is coercion. I remember very strongly during the big kick with the Me Too and the feminism that bribery was clearly made to be understood as a passive-aggressive form of coercion. You're trying to make somebody who already said no say yes by different mitigating circumstances that they find will make what they found, what they rejected it for, that they will find acceptable. So that's just fucking amazing to me. So now into the main meat of something that I've been wanting to go over. It just recently hearing Biden, the other week state that no amendment is absolute. I don't know, man. I just don't fucking know. So with a little, I guess, would you say, preamble to it, the way I've always understood the constitutional amendments, they were items that either weren't clearly defined in the Constitution or at one point or another, due to certain circumstances, needed to be readdressed within the Constitution itself. So, first one goes, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So there's quite a few things there. I mean, most people, it seems, at least when they talk about the First Amendment, regards to either your freedom of speech, which again, the funny thing about hate speech laws is hate speech laws can actually subvert your First Amendment, your first constitutional amendment, because the law is very clear. If you make a call to action to either commit violence or to commit an action on somebody else, depending on the degree of the action that person took is going to also reflect the degree of punishment that you will take as the person who made the call to action. One big example is people will say, well, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, actually you can, as long as there's actually a fire, because if there's a fire and you yell fire, it's to alert people to let them know get out. Now, if somebody gets hurt during that, you're not responsible. You yelled fire because there was an actual fire. Now, if it's a, boy calling or boy calling wolf situation, then that's obviously different. And somebody gets hurt, then you're responsible for it because there was no cause to put somebody's life at risk. So I think that's pretty clear. One other thing is the press. You should actually be very subversive in a sense towards the government. I remember when I was younger, I didn't really like watching the news because things were very cut and dry in a sense. They were very exact and detailed. And now you have news that will clearly just lie to your face. They'll lie to your face. A perfect example is regardless on how you feel on whether you're on the blue or the BLM or the Antifa side about that shooting that happened in Chicago, that officer was responding to a shots fired call. That means people were reporting that either one or multiple people were shooting their guns multiple times. He gets on scene, suspect or somebody who he would deem to be a suspect, or just somebody in general, sees him, starts running, he chases after him, and you can clearly, when they slow down the video, see that he has a gun in his hand. Now, the fact that he threw the gun and then started to raise his hand and what responsibility is on the officer to risk getting shot, because obviously you can't see until the hand is all the way up, and with split-second decisions, you can go ahead and debate that all fucking day till the cows come home. But the news is not being honest. They're just making it seem like a cop rolled up, got out of his car, bow, and fucking went on with his day. I don't know. Kind of hard to, support a press who does that. But again, they have the right to actually present news stories. I mean, mainly because if you look historically from the monarchy that we came from, people weren't allowed to tell the truth about the monarchy. Got them killed. So I as much as I hate where the majority of what our oppressors come today, it's very important to still defend the rights of even those you abhor, or that you loathe, or that you just downright just can't stand. Because if you can't defend their rights, they won't defend your rights. There's going to be nobody to defend anybody's fucking rights. You got to see how I feel that's a tactic of the deep state to fucking turn ourselves against each other. But nonetheless, one that's interesting here is the right of the people to peaceably assemble. And this is something that's been made very interesting with, COVID mandates. Because again, when somebody says that it's a law to wear the mask, or it is a law that you can't have so many people gathering, either you've just done bought the fucking farm, or you don't, in my opinion, actually understand what your rights are and how a constitutional republic works. We vote people in to represent us in politics, in the greater scheme of the government and the laws and everything. And something has to be a bill. Like, I forget the fucking song, but it's just go, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. There's three branches of the government. They can counteract each other and everything like that. But there were no laws. There were no laws voted on for these COVID restrictions, either by the people or by the politicians, unless Congress had a closed door. But again, it's a mandate. And to me, a mandate is a violation of your constitutional rights. To say that you have no choice but to do what we're telling you because we say so goes against the process of our constitutional republic. But, that's neither here nor there. And then obviously, people have freedom of religion. That was a big thing, because even amongst Protestants of pre-colonization, even, they had to be very particular on who they dealt with, because people were so rigid about their religions, at least back in the day. All right, now, Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, this one is, I feel, very often either purposely by certain people or unintentionally by other people misconstrued and not properly described or expressed, in my opinion. Now, the very first statement in there, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Fact check me if you want, but I feel it's been very clearly documented that the revolution, we would not have won the revolution had civilians not brought their own rifles, their own muskets, their own arms into the battle against the British. I think that's been made very clear, and I think that's very clear why our founding fathers gave us that right, that they understood that if you arm your people and they have patriotism and they have love for their country, that's going to be the strongest army ever. It's nearly conscription, or all-out forced conscription, even though men were conscripted for so long without women also having the same requirement. But that's a different thing. But again, I feel like that was a right that we were given by our founding fathers, because they realized that is what made the difference. And I feel like they were very forward-thinking men, and for all their flaws, could understand that if you allow a nation to arm itself, you allow the civilians to arm themselves, that will create such a core strength of the nation. I think it stands to the attestment that the only time that we've been evaded, at least in recent history, was Pearl Harbor. Now, obviously, America has been invaded before. Some people don't know the White House was burned down before by the Redcoats, if I recall correctly, and other various rebellions and things of that nature. But, I think that comes with it. Now, shall not be infringed to me is a little bit funny, because I almost want to go full hard ham and say, well, then that means that there's no restrictions. There's no restrictions at all. If it is a manufactured arm, we should be allowed to have it. But then again, I also go back to the idea of a well-regulated militia, and if you don't have some form of rules and regulations, you can't have any sort of well-regulated militia. So I go back and forth. I would almost be willing to meet in the middle, that, you know, people are allowed to own guns, and if you want to go a step further from there, you know, and just allow citizens to get certain classifications without having to jump through all these crazy hoops, as I understand that they are, then that's all fine. It's all fine and dandy. But again, it seems that there's this disparity between the federal government and its citizens on how we are allowed to be armed and exercise our Second Amendment, which, in my opinion, is for the loss of the strength and security of the nation. Because if we're invaded, you're gonna have two factions at odds. You're gonna have the citizens and how they're armed and how they're trained, and then you're going to have the militias, or the actual militaries, and how they're armed and how they're trained. And we're not going to be on the same page. That's just my opinion. You know, a government who's worried about citizens having guns is a government who has something to hide. They have something. They have too much power, and they're afraid of losing it for whatever reason. Third, no soldier shall, in the time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in the time of war, but in a matter to be prescribed by law. Now, I may not have the exact history on this one, but this one was very important, because the colonists, during the Revolution and even before the Revolution, had to give their houses up to any British soldiers that came in for any reason. Whether it was peace or war, they were allowed to come in, occupy your home, and more often than not, you know, when you allow the evil nature within, you know, man to fester, it's going to produce the worst things. And most people would, you know, no, I shouldn't say most people, because again, I'm being hyperbolic without any actual data. There were plenty of reports of people who were having their children or their daughters and their wives raped, their family heirlooms stolen. They were cleaned out of their food and any other valuables by the time that the British left. So that was something that was very important to the founding fathers, to make it clear, like, hey, we're not here to take and occupy from you. I don't know. I mean, it's a little ironic, considering that, you know, we just go out as a country, or we go out into the world and kind of occupy and subjugate and colonize them. But hey, you know, I don't know what to say much about that one besides that. All right, number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So this is kind of applying to search warrants. I would like to, like, you know, have some introspection into how that might apply to big tech and whatnot, but it's just in the most basic sense is obviously implying with search warrants. And they're saying that you know, then again, I think this is something that comes back to pre-revolution, and, you know, when they were worried about turncoats, or the British were worried about turncoats, and they would just go in and search people, seize people's properties, go through it. They would say that they're looking for this, they're looking for that. Part of it was to hassle people. Part of it was to create this social anxiety and fear of being willing to join the revolution or hide revolutionaries. So that is just something that, again, that was another protection that they wanted to make clear was afforded to the citizens who helped them win the revolution and thus win, you know, the country. The one thing that concerns me about where that comes into big tech is a lot of people don't know, and this is a fact. I mean, I encourage you to look it up, but Facebook knows when you poop. It knows where you sleep. It knows where you shower. Plenty of people have talked about it, and they found it odd when they talk about things, and then it'll show up as an advertisement. You'll go look for an item on one site, and it'll show up as an advertisement. You know, I just sometimes I don't know how to feel about that. I just don't know how to feel about that. I mean, I would have to wonder, like, I mean, to use something as simple for the very first time as the Alexa or the Google Home, if you don't have a Google account or whatever fucking accounts for that shit, you have to create one. What's in those non-disclosure agreements? I mean, it's been proven that they do record you, and it even helped solve a murder case. So specifically in Alexa, you can look into that. It helped solve a murder case because it actually was recorded. If you don't know the sound of audio feedback, you may not always catch it, but there's plenty of times when that shit's plugged in and I catch audio feedback because it's listening. It's fucking listening. I mean, it's in a sense, you have to think it's designed to listen. It's designed to always be ready to hear you say, hey, Google, hey, Alexa. Plenty of times people will notice that their shit's just activated. They didn't even actually mean to activate it. All right. The fifth. No person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crimes unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in the case arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service time of war or in public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, double jeopardy. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against themselves, pleading the Fifth Amendment, if that makes any sense to people now. Nor to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So there's a lot there. All right, so it's basically saying you can't be held for a crime, especially a high crime, without there being clear evidence. You can't just, for example, I think one way to put it is like Charles Manson. It was highly suspected and documented certain things that they were planning, everything that was going on in there, but because no crime up to the point of the Shannon Tate and the other people massacres hadn't taken place, they really couldn't move on it. The Boston bombers, from what I understand, they knew they were making certain moves towards possibly building a bomb, but that is one of the unfortunate sides of the freedom. We have so much freedom in this country, we can basically commit the crime with the acknowledgement that we will be punished for it if we're caught. All right. There's the next one. Now, double jeopardy. Double jeopardy is pretty clear. I mean, it's been, I think, shown in movies and things like that. But if you're tried for a specific crime, they cannot try you again on that crime unless there is new substantial evidence that was somehow not obtained before and can be verified. That's basically what that means, as far as I understand. I'm not a fucking lawyer. I haven't taken my bar exam. All right. Where's the next one? Oh, okay. And then, not being a witness against yourself. I mean, that's in most recent times with Derek Chauvin. Derek Chauvin said he pleads the Fifth Amendment and did not want to answer any questions that might further incriminate himself, as far as I understand. Now, what's more important, there were 3 people in the car with George Floyd. There was George Floyd, there was their friend of a friend, or his friend and his girlfriend's, or also girlfriend's friend. But then there was a gentleman in the back seat. The gentleman in the back seat was dealing them the fentanyl or the oxycodone, depending on which drug particularly it was that he was selling to him. And that man pled the Fifth. And I shit you not, because you can go and look up I don't know the exact timestamp from the trial, but dude straight up said the prosecution attorney or whatever said he can't have him take the stand because he would incriminate himself. Well, what would he incriminate himself on? It would be charges that would lead to murder 3, because I believe what state is that, Minnesota or whatever they're at. If you sell somebody drugs, and those drugs are at least in part and in result to the person's death, you're responsible for that death. So, fucking, more honesty and hard-hitting facts from the media. All right. And then the last one, the only one I can think most recently, kind of, I don't know the whole story, but the Clive and Bundy ranch, the whole story, I don't know the government wanted to take the land, if I understand, and he didn't want to give it. And they said, well, we're going to tax you then for the land. And he said, fuck you, this is my land. You have no right to take it. You have no just reason to take my land other than to try to make a new highway. So I'm not going to pay the taxes. And then they tried going in there with guns to fucking kill him. Or not necessarily kill him, but to take him to jail because he didn't pay money. You know. That's something, you know, that always think about with our government. Our government's authority is derived, as Ben Shapiro said, at the end of a gun. Because whether it be you don't want to get out of your car and sign a ticket because you made a turn in the wrong place, or, you know, crimes more substantial than that, if you do not comply with the officers, they have the right to forcefully detain you. You know, so take from that what you will. All right, number 6. In criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed by the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witness in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel for his defense. Now again, a little bit more meaty. I'm going to do my best to explain it. Believe it or not, I have a lot of experience. Old Uncle Sam there in the law. All right, so a speedy trial, basically from what I understand, because our fucking justice system is so fucking backed up by years with all the fucking small and petty crime, there are people who often wait, if not months, years to have their trial. And then now, to be fair, that in most cases, time served is applied to that unless you committed more crimes while you were incarcerated and blah fucking blah. But if you feel like everything's taking too long, you can request you know, things to go a little bit faster. But the downside is obviously, you know, you risk getting fucking railroaded more. But it's basically saying that people shouldn't have to wait 10 years to deal with a small thing. They shouldn't be incarcerated forever without ever being seen. In my opinion, this goes back to practices that the monarchy took to try to deal with rabble-rousers and kill any sort of morale that they felt was going against them. It says basically, you know, what do they call that? Fuck! That kills me when I forget. What is it called when you get taken from one state to another to be held for a crime? It's not extraction. Fuck! Wish more people were watching. Somebody can help. I forget the name of it, but there's a legal term for when you're caught in one state, but you're going to be held for trial in another state, so they take you there. Is basically what that's saying, and that you have the right to face your accuser. This is a bit of a stickler on both sides. If somebody accuses you of something, you should be able to face them straight up. One of the things that's that you know seems to have been hindered with this when it comes strongly to rape, because obviously it's very understandable that if somebody was actually sexually assaulted in any form, having to face the accused in court, you know, if it's true, obviously would be very traumatic for anybody. But again, that's I don't know what to say. I haven't had that happen to me, so I don't want to speak out of turn. I've had to have people stand and state my crimes, but it was, you know, felony vandalism. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a necessary outcome, because you would have issues like the U of V mattress girl, the University of Virginia mattress girl, where she outright said that she was raped, and all of the evidence turned out to be otherwise. And you know, not, I don't know. I think, you know, like, if people didn't have to stand and face that's the thing is she didn't go really like through the law. She went through the school to where there's not this type of representation. You don't get the proper due process representation. She went through the media where there's no proper due process representation. So, that's, in my opinion, clear why this is important. This is important because if you leave it up to the social lynch mob, they won't care about proper representation in these kind of scenarios. Okay. I think they have better ways of wording it. To have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor. If I understand that correctly, I think that may apply to discovery, and that you have the right to see what it is that you're going to be accused of and the evidence against you, so that you're allowed to mount a proper defense into it. It's about being fair in the legal sides, And have the assistance for counsel for his defense. That is a funny fucking term of saying, if I understand correctly, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided to you, a public defender. Oh, god damn. Having a public defender is like having somebody process you at the DMV that is basically a DMV temp. I don't know how else to put it. There are some, obviously, public defenders who do it, who are very skilled, and they do it as a public service. There are other public defenders who are just up and coming and need to get their beak wet. I can tell you that's not what the fuck I had. Holy fuck, I almost got shafted really hard. All right. All the way up to 7. Holy fuck, we got a lot of these to get through. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall be exceeded $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court. Well, I don't know. You fucking got me there. Holy fuck, I don't know what is the value difference in $20, because $20 back then was a shitload. I think that it's saying, if I understand correctly, if it's just civil disputes, that you don't get jailed for it, that there's some social agreement. I don't know. I don't know. So we'll move on. Number 8. Excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. That's real fucking interesting, because you look at the fucking the bail some people get set with. It is clearly exceeding what kind of money they have. I don't know if it's able. You wouldn't think. This would sound very corrupt to me, but then again, this is our judicial system, so it very well may be true. But that almost would make it seem like every crime has a price tag to it, and per crime you commit adds to the price tag of what your bail is. From what I understand, bail is supposed to be almost like child support. It's supposed to be scaled off what you're available to pay to a certain degree. I don't know. That one being a constitutional amendment really seems kind of interesting to me. I'm not gonna knock it. I just don't see what the point is. It's, in my opinion, it's basically saying if you can commit a crime and you have money, well, you get a temporary get out of jail free card until you have to go to court and then